to uncover promising practices at our programs around the network, and also provide a forum for sharing out that valuable information to other partners around the network. And this is the first lead-off subject related to the Sharing Success campaign, focused on successful outreach strategies. So again, thank you for joining us, and we are your hosts.
Hi everybody, this is George.
And Prentice. All right, so let's meet our panelists. We have Vivian Ostrowski, Director of Gateway to College at Holyoke Community College, and the program opened in fall of 2008. Vivian took over as Director in 2010, and they're currently serving about 88 students. Mike Wilson is the Director of Gateway to College at South Texas Community College. That program opened in 2010. They're currently serving 82 students. Kim Infinger, Director of Gateway to College at Lake Washington Institute of Technology, and they opened their doors in 2009, and they currently serve about 180 students. All right, so the outcome for this web panel is that Gateway to College directors will share strategies, practices, and tools to increase or maximize enrollments of students for whom Gateway to College is a good fit.
So, as Prentice said, this webinar is part of the Sharing Success campaign, an opportunity for us to highlight programs and directors who are achieving strong results in the focus area. And of course, for the past couple of months, the focus area has been on outreach and enrollments. And we know that several of you out there in the network have been working hard on outreach and recruitment and strengthening your enrollments. We chose Kim and Mike and Vivian because they represent three different kinds of results when it comes to enrollments. So in the case of Holyoke, Vivian stepped into the director position at a time when enrollments were falling off pretty dramatically in the program there. And she and her team have been able to significantly turn around enrollments in the last few years. At Lake Washington Institute of Technology, Kim's been leading a program there that's been able to maintain strong enrollments throughout. And by the way, I should point out that the numbers that you see on this table here are new enrollments. So they're the new enrollments that they are achieving in the fall of 2010, 2011, and 2012. And then at South Texas College, Mike's team has shown a pretty big increase from the fall 2011 to fall 2012. Fall 2011 was their first year of serving students. And so while many of you have been facing a lot of headwinds when it comes to funding for K-12 and colleges, these three programs have been among those programs in our network that have been able to achieve strong results with regard to enrollments, even in the face of those difficult economic times. And so we wanted to give them an opportunity to share with you what's been working for them in the hopes that some of this information will be helpful to you in your own efforts.
Thanks, George. And for the purposes of the panel, we thought definitely would be a good thing to give you a little bit of backdrop on that. And specific to the panel, what we'll do is, of course, we have three panelists. What we'll do is get all Vivian's best thinking on outreach practices. Then we'll move on and hear from Mike. And then finally, we'll wrap up with Kim. So leading off, Vivian, with regard to strategies and practices and tools, I'm wondering if you could tell us what are the strategies, practices, and tools that you use to achieve enrollment results?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. As I've been thinking about this call, I realized that there are three critical components for us: outcomes, relationships, and creativity. And I will come back to each of those towards the end of it, but I want to start with the stories. And as George started to say, our program started in 2008, and for the first 2 years, our enrollments were much higher than what you currently see on the screen, but our outcomes were pretty horrible. And so as a result, the combination of poor outcomes and the recession meant that our school districts either cut back completely or cut back their numbers pretty dramatically. So we weren't focusing on recruitment at all for a long time. We instead focused on outcomes. We felt confident. Well, really our only hope was to be so damn good that we could show if you send your students to us, they will graduate. And so we started building an infrastructure as creative as we could in order to enable our students to succeed. And we started doing really well. We started graduating at really dramatically higher percentages than our school districts. So then the question was, how do we get the news of that turnaround to the superintendents, to the principals, to the people responsible for making the budgetary decisions? So we had a miracle happen, and the miracle, this is about relationships, is that our school every year hosts a luncheon for superintendents and principals, and so I was asked to be the keynote at that event last year, and was able to present some really powerful information, succinctly, quickly. I had about 5 minutes to do a dissertation's worth of information, and at the end, people were coming up and wanting to do business with us based upon, A, the outcomes that I had described, and B, how the president of our college and the vice president and the superintendent who did this presentation with me, how strongly they felt about the program. And so the relationship piece and the outcome piece were critical pieces in that. So let's fast forward a bit. So that was last year at this time for the fall. Then in the fall, this spring, we actually increased our enrollment by another 45 people, another 45 students more than what we had in the fall, which was on some level a little slice of hell, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we had a second major district that had pulled funding because of, again, the recession and outcomes. We had continued the students from that district who were in our program. We had continued them in Gateway despite the fact that the district wasn't paying for them, partly because it was the right thing to do for the kids. It was the right thing to do for the program, and it let the district know that we were committed to having a relationship with them, even if temporarily they were unable to meet their obligations financially. So again, the relationship piece. And then our outcomes were really strong. Families were clamoring to get their students into the program and put a lot of pressure on the public officials in the town to do business with us. So we ended up with 15 new students from that district for the spring. At the same time, we got a grant that enabled us to bring in some students who would not have been appropriate for Gateway, but were appropriate for Gateway Prep. So we brought in another 21 students from there, and then some more from some other districts. So we ended up with 88 students. We had 40 in the fall and 88 in the spring. Which brings me to the question. Oops, all right, over to you, Prentice.
Yeah, no, that's great. Vivian, thanks for the insight. And, a couple of big things really stood out to me, and no pun intended, but what I heard you saying is you're actually sharing success. You're making your partners aware of the success that students are having in your program. And oftentimes, if directors don't do that, your partners aren't going to have a way of knowing. The other thing that I heard you say, was related to you said relationships, and that is inclusive of partnerships. And I heard a little bit of flexible partnering there, where the district says, hey, we're in a tough spot right now, and we can't support the students financially in the program. And the college said, no sweat. We'll hang on to those students. And I think that those approaches send strong messages to our partners. So thanks for sharing those pieces. So Vivian, tell us a little bit more about the roles and responsibilities of the folks involved with outreach and enrollment.
I wish we had been more planful about this. For years, we were the incredible shrinking program, and so we didn't have to worry about recruitment because we weren't recruiting anybody. Then suddenly we found ourselves facing success and it nearly killed us. We brought in, as I said, about 45 new kids for the spring, and we managed that by working too much and being raggedy. Frankly, we weren't very good. So what we have done in anticipation of continuing to be able to recruit, our office manager now is handling most of our recruitment activities. We've hired a data person to do some of her more routine tasks, managing the database, doing attendance, doing the stuff that ate her time in the past so that she can put her focus on recruitment.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think that was a little bit understated, but I will say, you know, in our conversations, Vivian, you have shared that you sort of put yourself in the middle of discussions with your school district partners. You're involving yourselves in their conversations, and in addition to making them aware of the success that students in your program are having. And so, and this is just coming from conversations that we've talked about, but I know that one of your roles, whether it's officially stated or not, you have been an advocate for the program and have made many, many connections with your school district partners and have embedded yourself in related conversations.
That's absolutely true. I go to the principals' meetings in the districts. I collaborate with the other alternative schools to do things like prom and other things that our students share. I make it a point to get to the high schools no less than once a month to just check in with folks, and particularly communicating with guidance counselors. When our students are doing something particularly good, I will look and see who wrote them the letter of recommendation to get into the program and call that person. And usually all of us cry when that happens. And then those folks know that we're real, the students are succeeding, and are willing to send students again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So a couple questions with regard to how you make it happen. What are the estimated costs of your outreach efforts, and then what changes have you made or changes that you might be planning to make with strategies, practices, or tools?
The costs, we have not done a good job in terms of printing materials and being shiny. I hope we get there soon, but we're not there. The costs for us were about reclassifying our office manager and hiring a data person in order to free up the people time to actually do the outreach. And then changes, I didn't think about the changes question, Prentice. Can we go to question 5 in terms of, for programs that are considering increasing their enrollments, what I would recommend? We jump
Sure.
there? Excellent.
Sure. You bet.
And so, again, let me go back to the triumvirate here is relationships, outcomes, and creativity. So each of the pieces that I want to share fall under one of those. Number one, most important, focus on outcomes. If our program's graduation rate is 30 percentage points higher than our partnering districts, we have a good argument for a collaboration. I will never sell used cars. I'm never going to sell a product. I refuse to be associated with a product that isn't doing the right thing and being successful. And so our fundamental piece was building an infrastructure so that our students were able to succeed. So that's number one. Number two, make sure your college leadership knows what you're doing and is selling the program on that level. It's one thing for me to know the guidance counselors, but our president, Bill Mesner, he's in meetings with the superintendents, with the mayors, with the city councilors, with the school committees, looking at a really macro level about what's happening in the valley. And so I'm supplying him with information, both anecdotal stories, let me tell you about what Madi did, and let me tell you what the breakdown is in terms of our graduation and persistence rates, so he's got that whenever he needs it. The number three is seeking grants and alternative ways of funding the program, which requires a kind of creativity and thinking about where do we want to go from here. Number four, exploring collaborations beyond the norm. So currently, I don't know if this will go any place, but we're in discussions with a local technical high school about a possible collaboration. You know, of course we do math and English and science and history and all, but we could also do perhaps culinary and IT and graphic arts and nursing. So why not a collaboration like that if they have a need and we can meet that need? Number five, the question is, what is your niche? Particularly for us, We seem to be successful with young parents for a variety of reasons, including a daycare on campus. And so if the local school districts aren't meeting that particular need, how do we sell the fact that we can do that? Number 6, most important, is communicate. Send the pretty little pie charts at midterms, send them again at the end of the semester, call the guidance counselors when kids succeed, have the college PR department tell the story. For us, this June, we will reach our 100th graduate, and all of our graduates are enrolled in BA programs. So our marketing people are playing like, this is good news. It's good news for the college, it's good news for the program, it's good news for the Valley. So they're doing our work for us there. Next, have face-to-face meetings with district leadership as much as you can. And then, as always, and this is a shout-out to Niles, know your data. Be able to know where your strengths are, know where your weaknesses are, tell the truth, and tell the story as often as you can. Relationships, outcomes, and creativity. I'm done now, Prentice. Over to you.
Yeah, that was some very, very valuable information. And again, the piece that I hear that glues all that together is your connection with your constituents, be it in person at meetings, making them aware of what's going on with the program and how well the students are doing, or it might be a communication, email or in person. And so thank you for your thoughts on that, Vivian. I want to move to Mike. And Mike, same question as before with Vivian. I'm wondering if you could share with us what strategies, practices, and tools that you've used to achieve your enrollment results.
With our school district partners, we develop a, it's like a dropout prevention and recovery team. And they look at us as the solution for their state outcomes and the dropout, specifically on the dropout status. And especially towards the beginning of the school year when they reach that certain, I think it's the third week of September, when it affects their state outcomes. We really, before that date, we really tried working together to find, go knock on doors, try to bring students in. And some of the efforts that we do would benefit Gateway, but majority of the time we say we're here to help them out in any way we can to bring the students in so it won't affect their numbers. And so with that, they see that how ambitious we are in helping them with their outcomes. I don't want to use the word obligated, but they feel that since we were so worried about their success, they want to ensure that that we fill our seats. And so recruitment has actually become very easy for us. We actually get into the point where we have a waiting list rather than trying to go out there and try to find individuals to come to our program. And with that, with a waiting list now, we're actually trying to elevate our selection process because we're finding that we have some students that are not ready for Gateway yet. They're not productive. They're not as productive as as our expectations are for them. And so we found that this is a very valuable tool. Is if we're worried about their outcomes and their success with our school district partners, they will in turn feel that they have to worry about our success also, and it makes it a lot easier in the recruitment process.
And so you're essentially saying you've committed time and resources to assist folks from your school district who are also focused on truancy and the dropouts in the community, and by doing that, you sort of have shed a light on the program, and now it's sort of a reciprocal relationship that you have going there.
Yes, and you just actually said the right word, shed a light. Who is this person calling me that's not from the school district? What is this Gateway program? And so we enlighten them about what Gateway is, when we're calling these individuals for the school districts, and they essentially get information about Gateway program. Are they ready for it? Maybe not, but we planted a seed that maybe we can harvest later on.
So, Mike, I'm wondering, in your description, if you could zero in a little bit and tell us about how the different roles and responsibilities break down around outreach and enrollment.
Okay, myself as the director, I'm usually the key on that dropout recovery and prevention team, and I spend a lot of time with the school districts on that aspect, and then the resource specialists, both are resource specialists. They have the prospective learning communities and their school districts that they serve. They really just do the info sessions, and the school districts actually they send us a list of who's going to come to these specific info sessions. Essentially, the school districts are doing the outreach for us, and we just do the info session and the sign-ups. And we don't really have to. Our printing cost is like zero. We really don't. We print business cards is about it. We don't really print out anything whatsoever. Have no printing costs whatsoever. And so, as far as cost, it's just maybe all I have to say is the salaries. That's about it.
Okay. So, so thank you for that. And just to clarify, so the roles and responsibilities, your resource specialists mostly focus on outreach, and it sounds like the burden of outreach has been eased a little bit. Due to a stronger relationship with your partners.
Oh yes, by all means.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about the costs, and if I heard you right, it's the salary for the resource specialist, maybe a little bit of travel, and then printing or flyers or some minimal costs associated with that.
Well, to be honest, our school district partners value their seats at Gateway, and they've asked us to not advertise, do not pass out flyers, do not. They want to send us the students. We had a little problem with flyers. People that had maybe dropped out 4 or 5 years ago, we're calling them and really harassing them that they want to get into Gateway, and they just didn't want to bring those individuals in. And so we are not allowed to advertise.
All right, I guess that's a good thing. I mean, if they say, hey, we have the students ready for you.
Yes.
So, Mike, this is George. So that your districts just value that so much, they're really protective of those slots for putting their students in your program?
Oh, yes, sir. Matter of fact, if I ever have to reduce it, I don't look for the day that I ever have to reduce the number of seats, because they do get after me if I do reduce it.
That's a great problem to have. So moving on to the second part of this question, Mike, has there been any changes that you've made or changes that you're thinking about to the strategies, practices, or tools related to outreach?
Actually, I'd like to point out a mistake I've made that I've learned is that
I think we can all learn from mistakes, especially when it's other people making the mistakes.
Yes, we've kind of eased on our selection process, and we're not talking about the academic side of it. We're talking about basically students that maybe were not ready for Gateway. Maybe they're not at that specific. Remember, like what I was telling you about the 360. Maybe we're pulling in 180-degree students, which we should be sticking to what we had before. We're thinking about 200 to 270-degree students. And
I'm wondering if you could explain that, the 360-degree student theory for the folks on the call.
Okay, we developed a degree theory that from 0 to 90 degree are students that have been affected in some way environmentally, family, school, or something happened in their life where they devalue education. And our speculation, our theory is that it started at 11 years old, or the change from elementary to middle school. And from there, somewhere in middle school, these students lose a great value for education. And there are some indications that they could be potential future dropouts. And I'm actually working with community-based agencies to try to focus on students like that to prevent them to be be affected by this in the future, being a potential dropout. From 90 degrees to 180, these are students that become rebellious against the authority and schools, and actually fight against the system. And this is the place that you don't. we should stay away from potential students that are in this phase. They are completely rebellious, and you probably have had some, maybe some of these students in your program. And then from 180 to 270 are, I call the freedom stage. It's the students that have left or have dropped out or have completely gotten out of the school system, and they're woohoo, I'm free. And 270 and on is I call the hard knock stage. They start seeing that, wait a minute, what did I do? I made a mistake, and they start feeling the hardships of life without that education. Mm-hmm. And so here we've developed the idea that we want to focus on students that are in the middle stage of the third level, between 180 to 270, like right in the middle. It's like we're calling it the 200-degree stage, where that's the type of student that we're looking for that might be interested in value in education. Now, we did just develop a theory that it doesn't have to be somebody that's older. We do have a 15-year-old that does have a child, and that young lady has she went through all the cycle really fast, and now she's really enjoying the Gateway program and actually very successful. She's now turning 17, and she's taking full college courses, and she's a comprehensive student. That basically, in a nutshell, that's the concept that we're trying to get students. We're really going to focus on students that are between 200 to 360, and really have a really strict, not just use what Gateway recommended to us in the beginning on their selection process, but make like maybe have a stronger panel, a panel of staff that are selecting the students. Really find behavior indicators that might be a warning sign. Like, for instance, the other day we were doing a selection process with a student. Oh, I'm sorry, at the beginning of this school year, there was one student that made an indication, boy, I can't wait to leave here because I want to go spark it up. Right then and there, we talked about it. That might be an indicator of extensive drug use. That student might not be ready for our program, and we didn't. Mm-hmm. We ended up selecting them because of comments like that.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you're saying that things got a little bit lax with regards to student selection in terms of their student readiness, and now you're using this framework for selecting students who you feel are most ready to benefit from Gateway to College at the time.
Yeah, because if you look at the Gateway way of selecting students that you provided us when we first started up, it really focuses on academic readiness, mm-hmm. But there needs to be an emphasis on behavior indicators. Yeah. Because we have students, boy, they aced that test, that entrance exam, they did very well, but they were atrocious. They were nightmares. They were the 90 to 180. They were hard to deal with, and it was exhausting. And our staff had to spend a lot more time with them and not focus on students that need the time to become successful.
Mm-hmm. So maybe make better selection decisions up front, and hopefully on the back end that'll pay off with regards to not having to expend their own type of energy towards helping students get back on track. Yeah. If folks wanted to find out more about that 360 model, where should they look?
Well, I mean, we created it over here, so
you developed it. All right. Well, if you have a resource or something to provide me with, I'll be providing the participants some additional resources and links after the call.
Okay, I'll send you that, but if everybody can kind of respect, that's going to be part of my dissertation.
So okay, well, I would, don't preemptively send that to us. Hang on to it and do what you need to do and have a good dissertation, and then maybe after the fact, that could be shared out.
So it'd be a nightmare to see it being published. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, and I didn't understand that. So, but I did want to move us to the next question, and wanted to get advice from you for other Gateway to College programs. And so, for other programs that are interested in increasing enrollments, what are some things that you would recommend as good first steps?
Build that strong relationship with the school district partners, which that is the key. Actually, if you go with the mindset that what can the school district do for me? You have a wrong attitude. You need to change that. What can I do for the school district? I want to be a solution for the school district. There might be things that you might have to do for the school district that there'll be no advantage, budget or any advantage at all for your program. But if you go to the extra mile for them, they will ensure your success.
I think that's, yeah, and you gave us a really good example of that, going out with some of your school district partners and going door to door. I think that's a good example. Anything else before we move on to Kim?
No, that's about it, sir.
Okay. And back to your 360 theory, Vanessa, Luna, Shannon says, sounds similar to the stages of change and recovery. So I thought that was a good.
Oh yeah, let me write that down.
Yeah, I thought that was a good comment.
Thank you.
All right. So last but not least, Kim, I'm wondering if you could share with us what strategies and practices or tools you use to achieve your enrollment results.
I will, and I'm going to call my section of this presentation not sexy but sound. And I am going to have us focus on planning, refinement, and leverage. We are an accredited special purpose high school, so part of our accreditation requirement is that we go through a detailed self-study, and like many programs, we have several programs besides Gateway under that big umbrella for our accreditation. So we took that 200-page document that applies to all of our high school programs, and we refined it by pulling out those goals that really were specific to Gateway to College, and those goals are to maintain adequate enrollment and to help students make healthy decisions. And so we carved out the time to meet twice a month for 2 hours at each session to work on our 5-year goal and then those specific refinements around Gateway to College. And you know, it could seem like by focusing on detailed planning that an organization could become so mired in the planning that they lose nimbleness and flexibility, but I wouldn't say that's the case with us at all. It gives us a common language, and it gives us sort of a touchstone for thinking about decisions that we make and things that we do. How does that feed back into our plan? So I don't ever worry that that we lose something by being focused on planning. We have documents that each of my staff are assigned responsibility for different components of the plans. And at our twice-a-month sessions, we'll go in and we'll look at the updates on that. So it keeps it as a living document, and it keeps sort of the people that are doing work, it allows them to go back and reflect on where does that activity or the project that I want to work on, where does that fit within our overall goals?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I show that planning document?
Yes.
So this is just a quick visual for the folks on the call. Again, I think, you know, I guess the importance of this is that each individual know what their roles and responsibilities are. And as you can see down on the bottom tab, there are specific duties across each of the team members and an overall task list. So yeah, it seems like a great tool to help with planning.
And you can see at the top that that's a refinement for a specific overarching goal to maintain adequate enrollment. And so, as you know, part of that, some of the tactics that we have used to create this detailed plan for Gateway is to have some big events. So we've had a big outreach event that we had last August, and the other part of that was we did a SWOT analysis. And one of the things that we realized that we needed to strengthen was our social media strategy. And so we have done that, and that's become a big part of our outreach efforts. So we've talked a little bit about planning, a little bit about refinement, and then I wanted to talk about leveraging. What we've been able to do is to leverage, with our goals in mind, leverage some of the things that have gone on more broadly in the community or in the college. For example, the college had a large open house, and we were able to leverage that event by contributing some funds so that we had a significant say in it, and we were able to have a breakout session. It was quite a successful event. There were about 600 people that came to the open house, and about 100 came through and heard about the high school program. So we are always looking for ways to leverage what's going on. So that's about it for that first question.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about the roles and responsibilities of your team members.
Well, I have approximately 10 staff. So I'm fortunate that I do have adequate staffing. And so we really, our philosophy is none of us is as good as all of us. So we really do spread out the responsibilities, and partly I use Strengths Finder. We've had all of our team do the Strengths Finder evaluation, and so we have a list of everybody's strengths. And so when we're selecting those specific tasks, I'm also trying to develop my team and have them work in areas that are of interest to them. So if it's a an outreach thing, some of my staff have been identified with positivity as one of their strengths using that Strengths Finder model. And so we'll kind of try to help remind each other of why we're having specific people do specific things. So that's a long way of saying that we pretty much share the responsibility based on what people's individual professional plans and goals and strengths are.
Yeah, I think that's, oh, go ahead.
And I would just say, and we record who's responsible. In that document that you pulled up, you can see that a name is assigned to that. So it also keeps us accountable to each other.
I really love the point that you made about connecting your team members to their strengths. I think that's a valuable piece of information. It's all valuable, of course. So tell us a little bit, Kim, about the estimated cost that goes into some of the things that you've mentioned, and also what changes that you've made or considering to make to strategies, practices, or tools.
Right. We did have a sizable budget for the outreach event and then to contribute to the college event. And then as part of that whole effort, we also had a counselor breakfast. So we spent about $7,500 for creating a video, having bands come to the event, creating some new banners, some things that are reusable, marketing, advertisement, some of the things that Vivian mentioned that that they haven't focused on so much right now, and that's we created some slick things with those funds. We also, our second overarching goal was having students make healthy choices, and so we spent about $800 to bring in a drug and alcohol counselor and a county health person to present on healthy relationships. So each quarter for the last year, we've had 2 sessions in each Gateway cohort with each of those professionals. So about $10,000.
That's
and then changes that we're considering is we do have a detailed social media strategy, but as you all know, probably better than me, that social media changes so quick that you really do have to keep refining your skills and learning new tools and again, leveraging those things that happen so that you have something to promote on social media. So, we try to be, constantly mindful of what we can get out there so we have something to put on social media. But we do have to, keep our skills up on, Hootsuite and different tools that are out there. It does take some time, but again, I have a staff person that has a high interest in that, so that's sort of her area.
This is a little bit off the cuff, but you being a technical college, do you find that there are students that are interested in developing social media marketing approaches?
A little bit. We have leaned into some of our students that are in the multimedia program and had them design some things for the event. The event was called YOLO, You Only Live Once, and they designed some pretty snazzy posters that we've been able to modify and use for other events. But other than that, there's not really a direct connection between the technology of the college and our efforts. Although, again, on the leverage side, we do also leverage the college has a social media presence, and so we feed things into the college public information officer and have her help. And we have also hired her for part of those funds that I mentioned were to hire her to help us create our Twitter page and just different things. So.
Okay. Thanks for that. And I like the part about you bringing in the college's PR department. I think that's a resource that is probably underutilized around the network.
Yeah.
So Kim, oh, go ahead.
And I was just going to say one more thing about leveraging, and that's sort of maintaining the attitude of sort of scratching each other's back. So when I'm able to promote things for the college or for different departments, then keep that in mind.
Then you get the reciprocation. Right. And it's interesting. I heard a little bit of that in what Mike had to say, and some in what Vivian had to say too. So, any other advice for Gateway to College programs?
I would just say one last thing, and that is to see possibilities everywhere. For example, we mine our data a lot, and Vivian spoke to that. We have several we use a new student survey, and we have a needs assessment, and so we're constantly mining that to see what it is, what needs might exist, and looking for ways to go in and meet those needs. And then the second would be to think very broadly about partners. For example, we began to think about, well, what if we could catch students before they come court involved, because so many of our students are court involved and they're having to miss so much school because of court. What if we could catch them right before that happens? And so we reached out to the juvenile justice. We have a diversion process, so people across communities meet with a panel, and they have a lesser sentence if they go through diversion, and so we have tapped in with those organizations.
Wow, that's great. That is definitely thinking broadly. Thanks for sharing that. So this question really is a general question for all of three panelists, and the question is what else would you like to share that we haven't already discussed? Anything?
I don't have anything, Prentice. I'm just reflecting on having heard the others speaking that recruitment and outreach is really, it's not really a separate category. It's part of the fabric of what we do. And so kind of isolating those pieces is interesting, but it's not a separate standalone function. And all three of us came at it from really different pieces, but about how it comes out of our practice.
Right. And what you had to share seemed complementary to one another, the practices that others have shared. Yeah,
I like what you said, Vivian, about it being the fabric of what we do, because you know, if just thinking about all this planning, it sort of might conjure up that, we're sitting here in the office, but when thinking about how much we're out there in the community and in the classroom and engaging with students, this is just something that we're sort of passionate about doing so that we can do that other stuff as well as we do.
That's right. All right. So I want to have our participants have an opportunity to ask their questions and get their questions answered. And the one question here is, what is the unique structure Vivian spoke about? And Kim, how are you utilizing social media? And what was your outreach program more specifically?
Prentice, I don't think I understood the question that was coming towards me. Can you say that again?
Yeah, apparently you referred to a unique structure. And so they're saying, what is the unique structure Vivian spoke about? And maybe if this person asking the question can indicate, Carrie, the context in which the unique structure was referred to. And then Kim, how are you utilizing social media, and what was your outreach program more specifically?
Okay, Vivian, you want to go first?
I don't, because I don't get that question. So over to you.
To get an elaboration from Carrie on the question.
All right. Our outreach event, I think the person is probably asking about YOLO. It was a, the best way to classify it might be an open house. We had several presentations just over general information sessions about our programs. We had a video that was created, and so that's part of our social media is a YouTube video that we had created, but it rolled out for this YOLO event, which was in August of last year. We advertised in local newspapers. We had leveraged our students quite a bit to create awareness about this event and create excitement. We had T-shirts made with QR codes on it so that people could get to the landing page with details about the event. We had arranged for a number of our students, I think 6 students, to get summer passes to summer concerts. And though they couldn't give out flyers in the concert line, they were able to wear their shirts, which sort of said, want free college while you're still in high school, YOLO. It had the date, and then they had the QR code that people could scan right then into their smartphones. We had local bands. The thing about the local bands is it allowed us to deepen our partnership with a local city teen center. And we also worked very closely with college faculty in high interest programs, and they created presentations and hands-on activities. So for example, the machining program bought aluminum plugs, and they made a program that students could punch in some numbers and create a spinning top. And to thank them for their involvement, I bought them several hundred pairs of new safety glasses. Our culinary program was involved and had made food. And then we had a way to follow up with people who expressed an interest, because we didn't limit this to people that were just of age, eligibility now. So some younger students came, but we had packets of information and created mailing lists.
Yeah, very comprehensive, getting everybody involved. Carrie, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so that maybe you can ask the question directly. So here goes. So Carrie, here's your chance to go ahead and elaborate on the question that you had for Vivian, if you choose to do so. All right, so maybe I'll follow up with Carrie offline, and maybe we can have a better sense of. So she's saying that she just really wanted to know how they emphasize student success. So that was for you, Vivian.
Say that again, Prentice. What about student success?
How do you emphasize student success?
I presume this is about the data piece, and so how do we, let me say, I presume that's about the data piece, and so readily being able to put our hands on the numbers. How many students came in last fall? What were their outcomes? How many credits did they come in with? How many college credits did they leave with? What was their high school GPA? What was their college GPA? And so slicing the information as many ways as we can to emphasize really two things. One is how successful the program is, but B, to make sure people understand that we're not kind of cherry picking only the best dropouts, but that the students who come in really face fundamental challenges and are succeeding anyway. And so putting that together visually, and then also putting that together with stories as much as we can. Here is the student with 2 children who came with what blah, 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 whatever that is. And so being ready in terms of the whole elevator speech, press the button and I can tell you my data points, but then also in written pieces, in the local media, on the campus website, and then in our own stories all the time.
And you stay present. That came through with your responses that you shared. You're present. You're in their environment. So I think that's a big piece too. David Johnson has a question for Kim. He says, along with healthy choices, do you incorporate a career services piece as well?
A big part of our foundation quarter is career exploration. I'm not sure if he's talking about that, but because we are a technical college, our students have to go into the technical program after foundation quarter. So we have a project-based learning class. It's 4 days a week where students start very broadly identifying strengths, interests, values, and then they move into group visits of different programs, and then they put all of that together and do a final presentation of the program that they've selected and why or why not is it a good fit for them.
I want to acknowledge that we are a minute after the hour. However, there is at least one additional question, and I'd like to get to that, but I do not want to infringe upon folks' time. So, panelists, do you have time for one more question?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. And so for the others, feel free to hang around. If you're tight on time, we understand. We should be wrapping up shortly. Here's the last question. This is from Fabi at our LA program, and she says, how do each of you handle students that come from outside your partnering school district? So again, I think foreshadowing to the outreach process where you might have students that show up that aren't part of the service area that you would currently serve or part of your partnering school districts.
Let me start with that one because that's an experience that we have frequently. We have 3 primary school districts that we work with, but we also have had partnerships with now 13 different school districts. So if someone approaches me who is out of district and school choice isn't an option for them, if I will meet with their school districts to see if they're willing to make an exception to have the student attend. Some school districts do because the student is on an IEP and this becomes an out-of-district placement. Some districts will allow, and I use that word in quotation marks, families to pay for students to come to us, and then they'll accept the credits the student earns. So we have, I don't know, we have 10 partnerships that may only be a student at a time, and each of those sprang out of just having random people seek us out, and then having, again, relationship with the school district to create a pathway for that student.
Yeah, I would say a similar thing. We have agreements with about 25 school districts, so it's not very often that we'll have a student come from a district that we don't currently have an agreement with. But if that were to happen, I always have the option to approach the district and ask if we can set up an agreement with them. And then with some new legislation that's come about with 1418 dropout reengagement, there are some provisions in there that if a district doesn't want to allow their student to choice out, that another district can serve that student. So because we act as a district in a sense,
right.
we have that option.
Right. Mike, did you want to speak to this point?
Well, I mean, we're very limited here, and there's actually not that many resources. So even for GED, there's only one program that has a waiting list that's about 2,000 on the waiting list. So that we're trying to find solutions for the ones that we can't serve.
And the underlying thing is I hear conversations and communication with your partners and potential partners to possibly develop an arrangement where it is possible for students to attend. And you know, in this tough fiscal climate, sometimes it may not work, but I think the starting place is having those conversations. I lied, and this is the very, very last question. It's for Vivian. You mentioned that there was this is from Vanessa Luna. You mentioned that you had a child care center on campus. Was this a resource that came out of the Gateway to College project, or was it pre-existing?
It was pre-existing. We feel very lucky. It's a kid's place, so it's not run by the college. It's a private enterprise, but it's right on campus. And so that's one of the ways we market ourselves. Kids can come on the bus, drop their kid off, and then come and go to school. And, of course, Jada, our resource specialist, helps the young parents get vouchers so that all that feels seamless.
Great. All right, so some final things. So what's next is that this webinar will be posted in the Resource Exchange on Gateway Live. We also have a link here that is the outreach page that has a wealth of information and resources, videos and documents, other tools. And then we also, for the participants, we want to get your feedback on this webinar so that we can continue to improve how these webinars go. And then also we want to plug ourselves and say stay tuned for the next focus area in the Sharing Success campaign, which has to do with improving academic performance. And we'll be focusing on those between May and June. The webinar date is to be scheduled.
And Prentice, if I may just come back to something you said at the beginning. So the webinar that we had today is part of the Sharing Success campaign, and what we hear from directors over and over again is that what you value most is the opportunity to learn from one another, and so this is our response to that. The best thing, of course, is always be able to get together in a room at the PLC or at the directors convening, but for a number of reasons we're limited in our ability to do that. So, so we just want to encourage you to visit the Sharing Success webpage and share the ideas that you have with your colleagues so that they can learn from the good things that you are doing in your program. And just to make it a little bit more fun, if your program submits something, then you're entered into a raffle to get a gift certificate. So we want to encourage that too. So
absolutely. So thank you very much. A recorded version of this webinar will be posted on Gateway Live, as I mentioned. I'll also, for the folks on this call, send out links and a copy of the PowerPoint and some other resources. So, and if you have any other questions, you know how to contact either George or myself. Thank you, and have a great week.
And Vivian and Mike and Kim, thanks so much for your participation and sharing your great ideas with our network.
I will be remiss not to say thanks to our panelists. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So long, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.